All right. Alan and I know nothing about what's been going on with the Checkmarx and Bitwarden supply chain issues, and so we figured we'd pull up this socket blog and read it and see what's going on and get a
Yeah.
initial take from it. But it looks like Checkmarx images were part of a supply chain compromise. Let's read. Um, Docker alerted socket to malicious images pushed to the official Checkmarx KICS Kicks Docker Hub. I actually don't know what this product is. I should just look this up since this is going to come up.
I'm checking it out. Keeping info This is great. This is awful, but this is great. Keeping infrastructure as code secure is the
Ooh.
name of the
So
product.
rough.
So roughly the opposite of what actually happened right now.
All right,
Um,
I'm gonna call it Kicks, and it looks like Docker Hub repository after internal monitoring flagged suspicious new activity. So it sounds like Docker detected this issue based on this blog,
mm,
and at least that's how Socket learned about it.
mhm.
And there was a poison bundled binary that was modified with collection and exfiltration capabilities not present in the legitimate version. That is quote unquote not good. And it looks
Yeah,
like it was scanning. Our investigation found evidence that the malware could generate an uncensored scan report, encrypt it, and send it to an external endpoint, creating a serious risk for teams using Kix to scan infrastructure's code files that may contain credentials or other sensitive configuration. I see. So they were using the product itself to then find vulnerable stuff, or at least just find credentials that then the attacker could then use.
yeah, yeah. So credential theft, basically.
Yeah. Early analysis of the poison Kix images found the bundled binary had been modified to include unauthorized telemetry. That's not new. We're crediting Docker with catching the suspicious image push and notifying us. Great. That's nice of Socket to not proclaim that they did this. Their alert enabled rapid investigation into what appears to have been um, cool. Well,
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on this is just kind of one, it's impressive how quickly Socket's able to put together a lot of these like analysis and threat intel reports. Like they're somehow it's always them who's like landing on the front page of Hacker News with a super detailed report just hours after it's happening. Like obviously this is kind of what they're good at, what they're built for. The folks over there are doing great work. Um, but to the actual like compromise, it's interesting to see this continue to happen. Not surprising. At this point, I guess every week it seems like there's a new supply chain compromise, and I think like the best things that you can do about it right now is really become like the cool down timer on upgrades, right? Would you say that's the still the best way to help mitigate the risk here, or is there any other
yeah,
things you would do?
I think most people are recommending the cooldown timer where you don't immediately install updates. And
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea. I tend to like to, if you're at a large enterprise or you have a security team with some resources where you are actually working on projects to kind of mitigate the risk here, you really want to be kind of saving your dependencies somewhere so that people can't mess with them once you do upgrade as well.
Yeah,
So previous versions can't be edited so that so that if a even like reliability wise, if a version gets deleted or something, you still have it. Vendoring vendoring in your own uh, kind of package manager. But I'm
Yeah.
curious how the Bitwarden comes into this story. Because I've seen that this is related, but I haven't seen exactly how.
Mhm.
So it says that the Bitwarden CLI is compromised in ongoing Checkmarx supply chain campaign. So were they a user of Checkmarx?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good question. I think that was the idea, or like one developer had this run on their machine. Let's see.
so socket researchers discovered that the Bitwarden CLI was compromised by the ongoing Checkmarx supply chain campaign. This is a different file that was added than the checkmarks one. This is bw1.js, and they noticed that the file that was added to the checkmarks one was mcp addon.js. A, a file included in the package contents appear to have leveraged and compromised GitHub actions in Bitwarden CI/CD pipeline. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm checking their official statement from Bitwarden, and it says that the investigation found no evidence that the end user vault data was accessed. Okay, that makes sense. They didn't say how it was compromised, and I didn't see it in the socket report either. So that's interesting. It irks me when, I mean, granted, it's still fairly recent, so maybe they don't fully understand how it was compromised still.
Yeah, still
Um,
figuring it out. Well, it does say here that the bw1.js and mcp addon.js were sharing infrastructure for collecting information. Um,
mm,
and so they were both exfilling data to
Same threat actor. Yeah,
audit.checkmarks.cx. Yeah.
interesting.
Same type of payload, same type of credential harvesting. Um,
Do you think this would have been mitigated by something like using chain guard? I'm curious.
so
How
it's
does
my
chain guard work?
understanding that a lot of what ChainGuard does is they rebuild the packages from source and
Hmm.
offer those packages to their customers. And
Hmm.
so it's possible that I would suspect that when a lot of these compromises happen, it's in the CI/CD pipeline and they're just injecting something that doesn't show up in the source code. Because if you're going to get it in the source code, then you actually have to go through the pull request and um, process, and it's a lot harder to sneak through. It definitely happens, but it's a lot harder to sneak through, especially in the JavaScript ecosystem. And so yeah, I do think I think rebuilding packages from source is a good strategy, whether it's through ChainGuard or your own kind of build infrastructure.
Hmm. Gotcha. How do you think these are, like, what do you think the future holds for these it feels like these are relentless supply chain security attacks. Is there like, I don't want to get too dark here, but is there any hope? What is the like structural solution to these sorts of things, or is there one? Or
I don't know. I think that there's not a lot of good information on monitoring your CI/CD pipeline. So at places
Mhm.
that I've worked in the past, it was a big achievement and it made a lot of sense. We started capturing all the DNS logs from our CI/CD pipeline. We started capturing all of the events of what was happening in around build artifacts and whatnot that we were pushing. And it is really hard though, because as there's more infrastructure and more stuff that people build for different service, like there people use ton of SaaS, and they
Mhm.
have their build pipeline hooked up to ship to here and pull in things from over there. It's really complicated, and uh, I don't see a great way to just solve the problems. Um,
Mhm.
as things are super connected, it just makes sense that there's going to be more compromises and things slip through.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think Socket will come up with a competitive product, Chain Guard?
I'm not well
Because they
versed.
do a lot of the same stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not well versed enough in the current landscape of the like supply chain code scanning, like package vulnerabilities. I do think that
Yeah.
they're competitors. I don't know how exactly. I don't know if Socket's doing the same rebuilding today. I kind of don't know.
Well, it's like everything that does vuln scanning is now like converging, right?
Yeah.
Everybody that had a very distinct, unique kind of area that they were focused on, their own niche in security, particularly when it comes to vulnerability scanning and posture management, I think is starting to converge very quickly. And that includes all your dependencies, all your supply chain security, even your like cloud security posture management and stuff like that, as you are making sure that things aren't totally exposed because of misconfigurations. The difference between a misconfiguration and a bad dependency is really just a couple lines of YAML. So um,
I I tend to think what's happening in the AppSec space is the same thing that's happening in the detection and response space. I think more it's like the platform play where all of the AppSec vendors from static, you want static analysis, you want uh, container analysis, you want safe container builds, you want
mhm,
all of these things, and they're all kind of converging onto single platforms where everything's offering everything. I think the same thing has been happening in the detection and response space too, where um, nobody wants to go buy a pipeline, a database, and a bunch of insight tools. Those are all kind of converging, and all the players in SIM are headed that way as well. So
mhm.
that's probably just security. It is centralizing its tools around specific, like I would say, security leaders, the detection and response leader, the AppSec leader, the GRC leader for other types of tools. So
Yeah. Well, props to Socket for putting together these very thorough and good analysis of these recent supply chain compromises because it's important to understand how they're working if we can have any hope of trying to mitigate them. So great work, Socket team.
yeah, I did see also on the hackernews.com, not Hacker News, but the Hacker News, they also had a pretty good doc on exactly what was happening here. So
Mm.
Bitwarden CLI, package.json, install bun execute bw1. So it looks like they've kind of mapped out the entire kill chain here.
Yeah, and I feel like because this is the Bitwarden CLI, we're going to see a lot of fallout from this. It's without a doubt somebody who's a developer working somewhere probably got compromised without their knowledge. So stay tuned on this one. I think we're gonna see this for a couple of weeks, just like and they made the reference to Shai Halud there. I think that's not that far off. So hopefully you're not you're all monitoring for the right things, but stay safe out there.
Stay safe out there.